What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? Wow, we haven't been here,
Yeah, it feels like it's been a long time
and
since we've been
it's been 2 or 3 weeks.
2 weeks, something like that. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it's been a little while. If you're here watching, please share this. We want to get some folk in here for the conversation tonight. It is Saturday night. That means it's time for Have a Conversation After Dark. We have missed being here. And for good reason though.
Very good reasons.
We were blessed with the opportunity to speak at some conferences. We had really good time last couple of weeks, just being able to share with couples and speak with couples. So we're grateful for that. But we're here. We're back. We're back. We're back.
We're back.
Yeah. So we're glad to be back. If this is your first time, this is Have a Conversation After Dark. Have a Conversation After Dark is simply a show where we throw some topics up in the air and let everybody take a swing at it, give your opinion, talk about it, and we give our opinion.
We give our opinion.
And here's the thing. It's not about us giving advice as much as it is about us encouraging you to have conversations.
Yep.
We should be communicating with each other. We should be learning each other. And I say this every time we do this show. Conversation is a catalyst for growth. Conversation is a catalyst for learning. You should be having conversations, right? So tonight is no different. If you're here, let us know you're here in the comments. If you're watching the replay, let us know you're watching the replay. If you can hear us, let us know you can hear us. If you can't, let us know. Well, if you can't, you ain't gonna be let. Unless you're good with reading lips, you're not gonna be able to let us know. But
they can type something.
So let's get started. If you saw the title and you saw the description, you know we're talking today about desire discrepancy. What is desire discrepancy? Desire discrepancy is a term that we were first introduced to by our friend Jessica McLeese, who we
Mm-hmm.
really need to get back in contact with. Jessica McLeese is a Christian sex
One of
therapist,
the best.
one of the best at it. And we were introduced to that term from her,
Mm-hmm.
which is essentially the discrepancy between it's just what it sounds like. It's the discrepancy between your level of desire
Yeah.
and my level of desire, right? That is a very um what's the word? It's a common, more than you know, or maybe you do know, common issue with many couples. And
Yeah.
a lot of these topics come out of our experience with the couples that we've had the privilege to serve, and many of the couples that we've had the privilege to serve, there is some level of desire discrepancy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One person, and we're talking sexually. So just so you understand what we're talking about, we're not just talking about one person desires whipped cream and the other one desires frosted flakes. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about in the bedroom,
Yeah.
where the drive, one has a higher drive, sex drive, than the other,
Mm-hmm.
causing issues in your marriage. So the question that I have, and I'm going to kind of put some people who are watching, if if you feel so inclined and you feel vulnerable enough to say this, have you dealt with desire discrepancy
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to your marital sexual experience? If you have, how have you dealt with it? And specifically, how have you brought it up? How do you tell your spouse that your drive is too low and it's affecting our relationship?
Mm-hmm. Or your drive is too high and it's affecting our relationship. I know. I know. Some people probably think that way.
You're right. Some people do think that way.
We have to be all inclusive.
We have to be all inclusive.
I know you don't get it.
This guy right here does not see how a high sex drive could have a detrimental effect on your relationship.
It could. Think about it. It could.
It could. It could. And we've had clients where that has been the case. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying me. That's just me. If there is a high sex, if you come and tell me, now I don't, obviously I'm not gonna do this. I'm not this terrible of a person. But if you come and tell me that my spouse's sex drive is too high, I'm not gonna say this out of my mouth, but in my mind, I'm gonna just be honest. In my mind, I'm gonna be like, so
What's the problem?
what's the problem?
It could be though. It could be. What if it could be? It could be.
It could be what, a problem?
It could be too high.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I get that, but could it be a problem?
it could be a problem. Yes, if yours is too high, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, if yours is too high,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, then yes, it's going to cause a problem
Okay,
because for me, it's too high. It's too much.
I understand.
So that would cause a problem. I'm either
So,
going to be like, nope, this is too much. You got to back off. That's going to cause a problem.
mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to be like, oh, this is too much. You're messing with my mic.
Sorry, go ahead. It's just how we hear it, but I think it's okay.
Or I'm going to be like, oh, this is too much, but I got to get it done. And you're going to sense that,
Mm-hmm.
that's my response.
So how do you talk about it?
Uh,
How do you? So if you can't be like, hey, listen, this is too much, you got to back off because that's gonna cause a problem.
uh,
And then if you're like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do what I got to do to accommodate it,
mm-hmm.
but that's gonna kind of come across as, oh, I'm just checking a box.
I think that you just have to word it, say it. You can't be like, you're just doing too much. This is too much. You are too much. You can't point the finger and be like you.
Okay.
You have to have a conversation and make sure that your spouse doesn't feel like the bad guy.
Okay.
I love when we make love. I love when we XYZ. I'm trying to meet your needs. It's very difficult for me. How about we do this? How can we meet?
Mhm.
That those types of conversations, not I can't, you too much, you always, you never. It can't be that.
Okay, and I'm with that. So let me ask this to those who are watching. Uh, I can't. Is anybody watching? I think there's a couple of people watching.
Oh,
Um,
yes. My
and
earpiece, sorry.
I'll take back what I said earlier because at first I was like, I asked the question to anybody who's watching, if you're willing to be vulnerable, can you say whether you had it or not? Don't worry about it. If you don't want to say that, if you don't want to put yourself on Front
No.
Street, that's fine. However, let me ask this question: if your spouse comes to you and tells you that you're doing too much, how can they approach you? What approach would allow you all to have a good conversation is what I'm asking the people that are watching.
Yeah.
So the people that are watching, if you're just kind of jumping in and out, we're talking about desired discrepancy in the bedroom where one person's drive is higher, one person wants it more, one person wants it less. That causes some issues often in the bedroom. How, let's say hypothetically that you were dealing with this, how would you want to be approached if you were the low drive spouse? How would you want your spouse to approach you to tell you and talk to you about this? Or vice versa, if you're a high drive spouse. We've had issues where there was one person who wanted it all the time.
Hmm.
The other person was like, listen, man, this is just overbearing for me, right?
Yeah.
How do you bring that up? Is the question that I'm asking anybody who is watching. How do you bring up a topic like this to your spouse?
Yeah. It's a tough one. You have to be sensitive. You have to be sensitive. It's hard when it's too much for you. I would
Okay.
imagine it's difficult because you don't want, I guess it's difficult both ways.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want your spouse to feel bad. And if you're the spouse that's feeling like you're not getting it enough,
Mm-hmm.
you don't also too, you don't want your spouse to feel bad. You don't want your spouse to feel like you're some type of addict
Mm-hmm.
or, either way, whether you are the person that feels like you're not getting it enough or you're the person who feels like your spouse is just going overboard.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's a difficult conversation to have.
It
I
is a
would
difficult
imagine. I would
conversation to have.
imagine.
I would imagine too. There's an article that I'm trying to pull up. I had it on my laptop and I should have brought it down here, but I'll find it while we're talking. For those of you who are jumping in and out, we're talking about desired discrepancy in the bedroom. Individuals who there is a one person has a much higher sex drive than the other. How do you approach that topic? And I'm
Hmm.
not saying how do you approach it because you don't have to put yourself on Front Street. I'm gonna
How
put us
should one approach it?
I'm gonna put us on Front Street in just a second for because people aren't saying they're not in the
It's
comments,
fine.
but that's cool. We'll put ourselves on Front Street in just a second. But I want to know if you're watching, hypothetically, don't worry, the comment doesn't mean that you are dealing with it. Because you know what's crazy? I was having a conversation with a group of guys recently,
Hmm.
and a interesting thing was said when I was having a conversation with a group of guys. They said that many people feel like they have to front or they have to lie about their sexual experience, even in marriage.
Yes, I agree. I think that people feel that way because no one wants to feel like they're not performing well, right?
I mean, even if it's not performing well, like why do I have to act like I get it every day if I don't? Like I'm not going to look at you like you crazy if you're like I don't have sex every day.
I don't
I mean,
know.
I feel like we were doing that in high school and college.
Yeah. Maybe it's just an ego thing. I don't know.
That's
And
interesting.
I think that that way of thinking,
Hmm.
it's more with men than it is with women, I think.
Mm.
Don't you think?
That's a good question.
I think so. I think so.
Uh, that's a good question.
I think it's geared more toward that line of thinking is geared more towards men. I think it's an ego thing. I think it's just
Maybe it is.
some type of macho ego thing.
Maybe it is an ego thing. Um, so so since we're talking about things that are kind of typically men, typically women, right?
Mhm.
I was reading an article that said that um, a study that was done that said women
Mhm.
who have been in long-term relationships
Mhm.
sometimes have lower sex drive.
Wow.
And that's interesting to me because women, as they get old, like are, what is it called? The prime
Prime years.
periods, right,
Mhm.
are different.
For
And
men and
it's
women.
and for women, it's typically when you get older, right? So I would imagine if you get, let's say you get married uh at 25
Mhm.
and you're in a long-term relationship, if the woman's not going to peak until later on, that's interesting that
Is that really true though? Is
I don't
that really a thing?
mate, hey, listen, there's
I'm saying that women peak
oh,
at an
is that
older
really a thing?
age.
Let's see. Let's look it up. Nobody's in the comments, so we can
Doesn't
take our
matter.
time and do whatever we
Is
feel
it
like
really
doing
a
right now.
thing though?
Hmm?
Yeah, is it really a thing?
Let's see. When peak sexually. Oh, in their
Yeah.
30s.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I thought. I don't know about
So
it
when
being
so when do
older.
men peak? 20s.
That's early.
That is early.
20s.
20s.
I don't know if that's
Let's
accurate.
be clear about something tonight. Let's be clear. And we could do whatever we want because ain't nobody in the comments. Let's be clear about something.
Men
I am
peak
52 years old.
in their 20s?
I'm 52 years old. You know what I'm about to say, right? That's
Yeah.
why you laughing. Because you know what I'm about to say. I'm at the top of my game right now.
Come on, don't make me laugh.
I'm at the top of my game right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm not saying that in a braggadocious kind of, I gotta put myself out there kind of way, but just let's be clear about that. We got Goldilocks in the
Oh my
building.
gosh.
What's
What's up,
happening?
Goldilocks?
What's happening? Black Love United. If you're not following them, you should be following them. Listen, I haven't been commenting. I got to get better on that, but I have been catching some of the lives on TikTok. So just shouting you out, man. Keep doing what you're doing. It's dope, super dope. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah. So all right. So it's not as late for women as I thought.
No, I didn't think so.
Um, let's talk about us. Let's talk about us, man. We love y'all too. Absolutely.
Love you
Thank
too,
you.
sis.
Thank you. Um, let's talk about us because we've dealt with our desired discrepancy, right?
Mhm.
I'll be the first to admit I didn't handle it well.
And that's what I'm talking about. When it's not handled well,
Hmm.
I didn't either. I didn't handle how I felt either well. And so we both didn't handle it well. But that's what I was saying in the beginning. When it's not handled well, that just compounds the situation because then
True.
you start not necessarily arguing or whatever, but you start reacting to
Hmm.
how your spouse is handling it. And
Hmm.
the situation, like with us, the situation was the desire discrepancy. Wow. But that's not really what we were at odds about.
That
Do you know what I mean?
now that's interesting because that sometimes is the case.
Yeah.
That's a symptom of something else.
Yep.
Yeah, Instagram. For those of you on Instagram that just are jumping in and out, we're talking about desire discrepancy in the bedroom. How do you approach this topic if one of you has a higher sex drive than the other? How do you approach this topic? If you don't want to put yourself on Front Street, how do you think you should approach the topic?
Yeah.
Uh, Goldilocks said, "Whoa, this was an issue for us in the beginning.
It was for
Now,
us too.
now I know you guys are have no problem keeping it a buck. So, how did you how'd you go about handling that?
Yeah.
How did one person bring it up first, and like how easy was it to get through that?
Because for us, I think it was, we didn't handle it properly right away.
Hmm.
And in the beginning, it was just frustration.
Right.
You were frustrated. We weren't talking to each other. It was that type of frustration. So it wasn't handled properly in the beginning.
Hmm.
And we eventually did, of course, handle it well. But in the beginning, it was just frustration.
And here's the thing, like this Saturday night conversation is not typically about us giving out advice, right? But um there was lack of communication on my part.
Hmm.
So here's the thing, I don't even know that it I don't even think so much that the desire discrepancy, like you said, excuse me, was the issue.
Hmm.
It was that I wasn't saying anything about it. I was just
Yeah.
reacting to the frustration,
Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
was acting out of frustration.
Right.
um I brought it up and it was rough.
Yeah.
It was a connectivity issue.
Yeah.
So just like what you're saying, right? So for them it was a connectivity issue. For us, there was some communication things going on.
Yeah.
There was, I would say, even some connectivity stuff going on as well, just
Yeah.
bonding in general.
Yeah, for sure.
That, like we always say, sex is if sex is the roof of the house, nobody builds
Hmm.
it from the roof down.
Yeah.
There was some foundational stuff I think that we weren't
Right.
really looking at.
And so because of that, I was reacting to what I was missing
Mm-hmm.
out of the
Mm.
holistic
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And you were reacting to my lower sexual desire.
Mm-hmm.
But my lower sexual desire was because of the environment of our relationship
Mm-hmm.
on a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 She said, me too, sis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting because it's not always, and we know this, right? That the person with lower sex drive,
Hmm.
right, had there are always things you can point it to,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Goldilocks said I had the higher sex drive. I had the higher
Okay.
sex,
Wow.
and we've seen that
Yep.
and we've had a client like that too, right? Where the wife had the higher sex drive. Um,
Yeah.
and that's I actually love to see that,
Yeah.
because we typically, when we talk about desire discrepancy, the
The
fellas
husband.
always
Yeah.
kind of get thrown under the bus immediately. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, we always gonna have a problem. Now,
yeah.
in our case, it was me with the higher sex drive, but it does happen that way,
Yeah.
as proof. So and I think for me too, it was about just because the question I asked was, how do you bring it up? What do you
Mhm.
say? Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think for me, the issue for me is that I waited until I was frustrated to approach it.
Yeah. I think you waited until you were beyond frustrated, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't want
Because
to.
I
I
think
didn't want to go all the way under the bus and get run over. I was trying to
No, I'm
slide
not
under the
trying to
bus a
not
little
trying
bit.
to throw you under the bus. I don't mean it in that way. Rightfully so.
Mm,
You were beyond frustrated, but I think that had we just, if we knew then, hindsight is 2020,
mhm,
what we know now,
mhm.
we would have just had the conversation up
Right.
front,
Hmm.
and that would have saved, you know. both of us.
We would have had the conversation up front. I remember there's a conversation, and I have to find it because it is recorded and posted. A piece of it is posted somewhere.
When you said why it's important.
Yeah, when I gave the video game
Yep,
analogy.
yep,
I
yep.
think for us that was a good conversation to kind of understand, because I admit it, even to this day, I feel like if I go too long, I really feel, and this might sound crazy to some, but I'm telling the honest truth. I really feel like something is not right. Like,
With you,
yeah, like
you
I
don't
just
feel
get
right, you
like,
mean? Or
yeah, I get like foggy, and I don't know. It could be all in my head, but it really could be something physically that happens. Like, I feel like, you know how they say sometimes guys get, see, so it ain't just me. That's what I'm talking about. See, she said me too. Me too.
I don't know,
I,
sis.
I think
I
I
don't
really
know.
feel like it, man. There, like, I can point to times when I've been sitting down here at this desk and just like, man, I just can't get my head right. Like, it ain't right today. And I think it's due to that. It's due to the lack of the bedroom. Cedric will say, I need my medicine. Hey, listen, I'm telling you, I think there's, all jokes aside, I do think that um for individuals who have a higher libido,
Mhm.
I do think that there is something physiological that happens within length of time. Now,
S-
we may blow it out of proportion,
Someone
but I do think something does happen.
someone said to us that they think that it's all psychological.
I don't think it's all
I
psychological.
tend to agree. I
I don't think
tend to
so.
think that it is.
I don't think it's psychological because, let me tell you why I don't think it's psychological. I don't think it's psychological because I don't um if it was psychological, and she said no.
She
it, it-
said no.
so and here's why I don't think so. I don't think it's psychological because I'm not, at least not at this point in my life. I don't, you know how there's some people who they just have to, they just need sex to the point where it's more of a feeding a craving than it is meeting a need,
Mhm.
right? I believe for individuals where it really meets a need for them, that it's like earlier when we were talking about, you had a headache and you were like, man, I think I need to eat,
Mhm.
or I need some water. I
Mhm.
think it's like that
Mhm.
for people.
Okay.
I do believe that it's like that for people. Now, some people blow it out of proportion, like I did. The way I reacted to it, I blow it out of proportion.
Mhm.
I think that, just like in the headache situation where you're like, okay, let me go find something to eat, that in that situation, you should be able to go to your spouse and be like, babe, like,
Let me find
I
something to
need
eat.
my medicine, right? Like, I think you should be able to do that. It's
Mm.
unfortunate because there are many people, and we've seen this. There are many people who don't feel like they can do that
Mhm.
for one reason or another, right? Oh, you always wanted. Why you always, they don't want to get that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the problem. I think that the conversation needs to be had, but it can't be a finger pointing conversation,
Hmm. Yeah.
because that's all that's going to do. If you're pointing the finger at me and saying you never want to do it, you are always got a headache, you always tired, that's just going to make me defensive.
Hmm.
And that's going to be make me be like, "Yep, you're right. Good night." You
so
know.
so that being said, for someone who might need to know how to approach their spouse, how would you need to be approached
I
since
think
that doesn't work?
I would need to be approached by, babe, how I really, love our intimate time together. I miss it. How can I help you so that you're not so tired? How can I help you feel comfortable and relaxed and taken care of beforehand so that that is not the issue?
Okay.
And, then it's on me, to say what it is that I need.
Okay.
And
And
then if I'm still coming up with excuses after you're willing to help
hmm
me,
hmm
then you have to tell me, babe, I did everything you said that you needed help with. What's really going on?
okay. Okay. So, um, too many words is what yeah,
She said too many words.
she would need a get straight to the point. But you know what? Here's the thing. What's important about that though is that you do need to know that,
You need to know that.
and there needs to be some room for negotiation,
Yeah.
right? Because let's say, for example, that's what you need, and I feel like it's too many words.
Mm,
Now what? Now what has to happen, right? So I think there has to be some room for negotiation around that as well to be like,
yeah.
hey, babe, you know what? Sometimes he said, I'm just messing with y'all. Hey, but listen, that you
It's
bring up a
real
good point
though.
though,
It's
because that's
real.
real. That's real.
It's real.
So now the question becomes now can how do we negotiate?
Yeah.
Because there may be some times where I'm just like, babe, listen, I just need you to know that if I'm down here and my head is just in a fog and I come upstairs and I see that you're not busy, w- I'm not gonna say all that what you just said. I'm just gonna I'm gonna just pick you up and you just gonna know what it is,
Yeah.
right? When I scoop you up, you just gonna know what it is, right? So, and I think there should be some room for that,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
But we have to be able to talk about that.
Hmm.
And and I know that you guys can attest to this too, Black Love United, because you guys work with couples as well, that so many couples don't talk about whether it be desire discrepancy or or any other kind of issue that may be happening sexually.
Yeah,
They don't talk
they don't
about it,
talk about it.
but it comes out after, like what you said I was doing in the beginning. It
Yep.
comes out after you have passed the point of frustration.
Yes, it comes out when you're beyond frustration, because when you're beyond frustration, that's when you blow up.
Hmm
And it's like, that toy that the kids have that you wind up and then
hmm
the top pops off and the clown comes out. Your clown comes out.
Wow.
When you get
Mine,
to
or are you saying mine
not
specifically, or are we talking in general? Like,
in
whoa.
general, in general, in general, in general. When you get to that point, like you're being wound up and you're being wound up, and then all of a sudden you can't hold it in anymore,
Mhm,
and it just comes out. You're,
mhm.
you're that's beyond frustrate. That's
Yeah.
when you're beyond frustration,
So
and
we
that's not a
can't
good
wait that
thing.
long.
No.
We can't wait that long. And here's the thing, right? I asked the question earlier, like, how do you bring it up? Quite honestly, you just say it.
You just say it.
You just say
You
it.
just say
Like,
it.
listen, babe, I just like I need this more.
Yeah.
Period.
How
How can we work that out?
Right. That's what I was gonna say. How can we come to an agreement, an
No pun intended.
understanding? Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
no. How can we work it out?
Yeah. How can
How
we
do
make it
we
work? I think
come to a
yeah.
mutual agreement and mutual understanding?
It's a difficult topic for a lot of people, and I won't go into the why around that, but there's cultural things that stop us from having those conversations. There are
Yeah.
family of origin things that stop us from having being forthcoming with that. But if you are, and again, this Saturday night thing is not about advice as much as it is about getting people to talk about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in the boat where you are dealing with desire discrepancy on any level, one person wants it more than the other, or we could talk about us, right? We're in a season of life where perimenopause plays a role as well
Child.
on desire discrepancy. So it's now there's other things that might play into your levels being different and your desire being different.
It's still a
You,
discrepancy,
it's
though.
still a discrepancy. You gotta say something.
Yeah.
You just gotta say something. Like, how do you bring it up? That's the question I asked in the beginning. You just bring it up.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, you should probably not bring it up after you already passed the point of frustration.
Right.
Like, don't wait that long.
Yeah.
Like, say something, right? Say something. Because I
Don't wait
promise
until the
you,
clown is about to pop out of the box.
right? I promise you, for most couples, now I'm not going to say this for everybody because if for some this isn't true. For most couples, your spouse wants you
Mm-hmm.
sexually.
Yeah. For
Now,
most
for
couples.
most couples, now that want might be a 3 compared to your 10,
Mm-hmm.
but they do want you,
Yeah.
right? So now you got to say something.
You got to say something. And I would say, too, because this is what was not done for us in the beginning. In Black Love United, it may or may not be the same reason for you guys, but in the beginning for us, the atmosphere was not set for me to feel like, okay, we good here. I'm ready for him. The atmosphere was not set.
Unpack that. Unpack that.
So, because of where you were, I'm not trying to point the finger, but it is the truth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because of where you were when we first got married, and you say it all the time, you when we first got married, you still were in that singular mindset mentality,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just me dealing with that,
Mm-hmm.
and just dealing with how our lifestyle was when we first got married, the first
Mm-hmm.
18 months.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't try to set the atmosphere for me to even feel, um it just, the atmosphere wasn't right.
So meaning because Angie asked what does that mean? Um so what
Like,
you're
I don't
referring to
feel
is
like
just
I was being nurtured
got you.
enough.
Got you.
I don't feel like he was being attentive enough to me and the family life and the whole marriage period. I didn't feel important. I didn't feel number 1,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of all of that, I was like,
Just not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it because I don't feel like I was being nurtured. And so
Yep.
obviously, if you're not feeling that, you're not going to want to sleep with the person that's not nurturing you and
Mm-hmm.
taking care of you and making you feel loved and nurtured. I felt like it was just, he just wanted to hump and be done. And I didn't feel like he wanted me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he wanted sex.
Got it.
Make
Yep.
sense?
That makes sense. I mean it. I can wrap it up in one of the lessons that I talk about in my book. I was demanding something that I was not taking time to develop,
Correct. Yep.
and I say in the book you should not demand something that you have not first developed. So what I'm asking of her and what I'm expecting of her is affection
Mm-hmm.
and a insatiable sexual experience that is not only insatiable but that is frequent.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting everything that comes along with that, the treatment, how I
Right.
want to be treated, but
Right.
I'm not treating you like that
Right. Yep.
in the beginning. So
Yep.
I get that. I
Yeah.
get that. And that plays a part.
It does for sure.
That plays a part. Now, I was going to make a generalized statement. I'm going to say this, but I know it's not a generalized statement. So let me just put that disclaimer out there. For a lot of men, that is not the case.
For a lot of men.
So there, you know, that there, well, let me put it, for some people, forget that. Forget what I said about a lot of men. For some people, that's not the case. So for some people, they don't need the nurturing. They don't need
Yeah, I
the
guess
to
that would be
feel a certain
true.
way. They are there are people, and I am one of these people. I admit it, that you and I could be at odds this morning,
Mm.
and that ain't gonna stop me. Now, let
Is
me
that not a male
hold on,
thing?
wait. It's not always a male thing.
No?
I think there's some women like that too.
Mm.
They may not want to admit it, but there's some women like that too.
Really?
I
You
think
think
so.
so?
I think so. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying we don't. I'm not saying we don't. We don't need to resolve it, because we
Of
do.
course. Yeah.
We need to resolve it. But me not feeling good, me, having some kind of disagreement with you, whatever, like
Hmm.
that ain't gonna stop me.
Yeah.
That's not gonna hinder me,
And
right?
it will me for
Right.
sure.
And that's why you got to know your spouse.
Yeah.
That's why you got to know your spouse, right?
Yeah.
So knowing that, right, that now determines how you approach the person.
Yeah.
And I think with the desire discrepancy piece too, I think that's, knowing your spouse plays a role as well,
Yeah.
right? Because, and I'm just going to use this as an example. I'm not saying that you should do this,
Hmm.
but maybe you should. I don't know. You could try. But it's sometimes with the desire discrepancy piece, there may be individuals who the nurturing and the affection and the touching
Hmm.
and the close proximity, the physical intimacy that's not sex,
Hmm.
can be a catalyst to getting them to the place where you want them to go.
Right.
Right. So, and you have to know that, so you know how to approach that. Right.
Hmm.
There's some, some people that you gotta, for lack of a better word, warm them up.
Hmm.
Right. So the desire might not be there at the moment.
Right.
So, like, I'm rearing to go right now, you're not rearing to go. But if I'm hugging on you and we laughing and joking and I'm kissing on you, rubbing on you, and you doing all this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
the heat meter goes up.
Yeah.
So now, instead of me kind of looking at you like, oh well, she don't want to do it again, and I just go about my way sulking and angry,
Yeah.
I put the time in,
Right.
and the heat meter rises, and
Yeah.
before you know it, 30 minutes in, man, we flipping,
Okay.
dipping,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? We tearing the house down.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? So
we
that,
got it. We got
so
it.
there is a way to go about that. What what?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a little bit descriptive there. Oh my gosh.
So listen, that's the whole thing. We're not gonna be on here too much longer. Next couple of minutes, we're gonna be out of here. But I believe that, as tough as a topic as that is for some, we make it harder than what it should be.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. We have to get to the point where talking about sex is not taboo
Yes,
at all.
without a doubt.
For us to talk
Hmm.
to each other about it,
Hmm.
or for us as coaches
Hmm.
to talk to other people and for them to feel comfortable
Yeah,
to talk to us about it. We've got to get to that point.
we got to get to that
I
point.
don't know how or where or
It
why
is needed.
it's needed.
Hmm.
I don't know how or where or why we are at this place where it's such a taboo topic.
Hmm.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I do know why, but I
yeah.
mean, it's just we
But it
gotta
can't
get
be
past
anymore.
that.
We got to get past it,
We've got to get past that.
because so many, and we can attest to this, right?
We almost treat it like it's illegal.
I'm telling,
You know?
and then when couples sit with us, we see the effects of their inability or unwillingness to talk about it.
Right. It
We
shows.
see the effects. They're people frustrated,
Yeah.
they're angry.
Yeah.
Little things now are causing the biggest blow ups.
Yeah.
It's just like you just got this pent up
Just
stuff. You
talk
just need to
about
say
it.
something.
Yeah. We've got to get past that point where sex is able to be talked about freely when needed between you and your spouse And if a couple comes to you for whatever advice,
Hmm.
coaching, whatever, it's just we gotta get past that point
Yeah.
where it's such a taboo topic. It should not be.
And I
It's
would,
not an illegal activity,
right, it's not.
and we
And
treat it as such.
so I'm gonna tell you right now, for those of us who are church folk, that, and especially for those of us who grew up in church, it was kind of presented to us like it was illegal.
It's true.
And then all of a sudden, when I walk down the aisle, it's almost like, man, you cannot rob banks. It's terrible to rob banks. You will go to hell for robbing banks. And then all of a sudden, I get to a
You're
certain
married
age, and
now.
they're
You
like,
can go
"Hey,
ahead and
listen,
rob the
man.
bank.
Hey, listen, man. Rob the bank, man. It's good now." You're like, "Wait a minute, what?"
Yeah.
And a lot of people were, they can't transition psychologically.
Yeah. I mean, think
They
about it.
can't make the transition.
It's been years. You don't get married until you're in your whatever,
Mm-hmm.
past 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. You have all of those
Yep.
years, all of those decades to
Mm-hmm.
unlearn.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't happen just like that.
Yep. And you
It
said it
was
was considered it
considered
was considered
nasty.
nasty.
Yes.
It was always, aligned with something perverted or something, you know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
and then now all of a sudden,
Crazy.
hey, listen, do your thing now. You good. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Crazy. But what about everything you just taught me
Right.
for the past 30, 20, 30, 40 years?
And that's where the whole, kind of healing from this purity culture thing kind of started to take shape, because
Yeah.
people were realizing, man, I've been taught one thing all my life,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden now everything you said to me now that I could not do, all of a sudden I can do.
And even once you learn that,
Hmm.
everything you said I can't do, I'm realizing now that I can do. Even once you learn that you were taught wrong,
Hmm.
it's still going to take a minute for your
Yeah,
brain to catch up to that.
it does.
So,
And I would say this too, as you talk through if you are dealing with desire discrepancy, as you talk through that, the goal isn't always for you to even up the drive.
no, no.
And I think, and I'm only saying that because we've seen couples that we've worked with where one person was really insistent on, if it's 5 times, then it's got to be 5 times.
Hmm.
No, 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 that's not necessarily what you're going for. What you're going for is coming to some level of understanding,
Understanding
not necessarily about the frequency or the number, but about the person.
the person. Yes.
So once you understand about the person,
Hmm.
you know how to approach certain things, right? So just like we were talking about the warm up thing, if you know your spouse needs to be brought into the presence of sex, so to speak,
Yeah.
by affection, by speaking their love language, by
Yeah.
whatever it is, now you know that. So you, instead of just jumping to increase the number,
Hmm.
you may actually work to learn the person, and by learning the person, organically increase the number.
Absolutely. I would say that most women, mm, most people, I'm not going to say women, most husbands or wives, most people, no, that's not true.
What were you about to say it though? What were you about to say?
I was going to say most women at first, then I wanted to include everyone, but
Hmm.
I think it actually is most women are not already just ready to go. I mean, honestly, it's just not the case.
I think, yeah, maybe. I think that is relative, maybe, to where you are in your experience.
Your experience?
Yeah. So hear what I'm gonna say. What?
Because what I'm thinking is most women are not already just ready to go. They need to be, for lack of a better word. Man, I'm having such a hard time with my earpiece. They need to be primed. And I hate to use that word, but I
I
can't think of another word.
I get what you're saying, and I do still think it's relative to, when I say experience, I mean like just where you are in your life and marital journey. I think there's things that contribute to that.
Okay.
And here's why I'm saying that. So think about, and I'm going to go all the way back to college. Like I'm going to go back to when technically we probably shouldn't have been sleeping around, right? But if you think about that age group,
Hmm.
generally there's nothing inhibiting them
True.
from just run, gun, and jump,
Yeah.
right? As you get older, there are certain things that now, from a psychological and physiological standpoint,
Mm,
cause some blockage.
mm.
So if you're stressed, or if the kid, you've been dealing with the kids all
All
day and you
day.
just can't even think adult thoughts, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, right? So based on some things, then you do get to that stage where you're like, okay, I can't even get in that frame of mind.
Right.
And those are really important times, because those are times where you really need to now be focusing on the things that help to offset those things. So whether it be the love, speaking of love
Love
language,
language.
you might have to take some stuff off their plate so that
Mm-hmm.
they have some more, you ease their mental load or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where those conversations happen.
Yeah.
And I think the desire discrepancy conversations sometimes center around sex itself and the frequency or lack thereof,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to strategy building
Yeah.
around
The
the whole,
person.
just holistically strategy building.
Y- Yeah. I'm thinking if we take the focus a little bit off of sex itself and put the focus on the person, put the focus on my spouse. What does my spouse need?
Mm,
Like, for instance, if you
mm,
would have thought that in the beginning,
mm-hmm,
what does Nisi need?
mm-hmm,
What is she what is she feeling like? How is she?
mm-hmm.
I think if you were to ask those questions, then I would have been able to tell you, well, I don't feel like you look at me as me. I feel like you look at me as, now that we're married, this person that you can have sex with whenever you want to.
Which I did feel that way.
I know.
I did. I did feel like that. Matter of fact, and people who know me know this. That's exactly why I got married.
Jesus.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, exactly.
Because I was like, either I can keep doing it the way I'm doing it now, and I've been told that that ain't right,
Mm,
or I can get right. So I chose to get right,
but in you getting right, it was
but
wrong.
I wasn't. But I wasn't doing everything that I should be doing.
Right.
So listen, we're gonna get out of here. Here's the
Yeah.
goal of this:
Mm,
if you're dealing with desire discrepancy, you need to have a conversation. We're just gonna put it that way. If you don't know how to approach that conversation, if you don't know how to even begin to walk that path, you got folk on here. You saw Goldilocks Thomas in the comments. She and her husband are Black Love United.
phenomenal.
You can talk to them about it. You can holler at us about it, and you can be helped through that conversation, because that is not something, desire discrepancy is not something that should disintegrate your relationship.
And you mentioned this, and I just want to stress it. Getting to,
Thank you, Angie. Thanks for being here too and being in
yeah,
the comments.
yeah,
Appreciate you.
thanks, sis. Haven't seen you in for so long. Um, Getting to the bottom of desire discrepancy, coming to an understanding, doesn't mean that the discrepancy will now be leveled
Right,
or evened out,
right.
where the desire will now become the same. I just want people to understand that it
Hmm.
it will, um once you come to an understanding and an agreement, you'll learn how to navigate it and work. I don't want to say around it, but work in a way where both of you are satisfied. That's
Hmm.
where you want to get to.
Right, right,
But it doesn't necessarily mean that the desire will level out.
right. And
You know what
here's
I'm saying?
right. And let me say this too. Let me say this too. I'm not going to go into this, but I'm going to just say it and you guys can talk about it. So
Then again, it might level
it,
out.
it might level out. And here's the next thing: fulfilling your desire, or Addressing your desired discrepancy may not always mean more intercourse.
Mm,
It may not,
mm.
because there are some couples where the person just wants to be wanted, and
Wow.
they just want to know that they're wanted. And
Yeah.
now the question becomes, okay, what does that look like, and how do I facilitate that? Well, you know what? Every time you see me, I just want you to grab. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. I can do that.
Yeah, that's true.
It may, and I'm not saying that for everybody. I'm just saying the point I'm getting at is you have to have the conversation that
Yeah.
centers around learning the person.
Yes.
Because when you learn the person, you will organically address the discrepancy,
Yep. Yep.
because you'll know how to, right?
Yeah.
Angie
That's
said, when are we
good.
live? So that we can support. Angie, we're working out a live schedule right now. Typically, we do this, have a conversation after dark every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're typically live for that
If we're not
if
traveling.
we're not traveling. We're about to start up another season of Inside the Relationship. That will be on Sundays. And then I'm trying to work out a TikTok schedule, because right now I go live sporadically on TikTok. There's no rhyme or reason. I just kind of pop up whenever I'm thinking about it. But we're working out a live schedule, and as soon as we have it, we're going to post it so that everybody knows, hey, they're going to be live this day, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's what's up. Yeah, and thank you for being here. We appreciate it. So listen, that's that's today's thing, right? Desire discrepancy. If you're dealing with it, talk about it. You can get through it. Trust me, we are living proof of that. We
Yes.
have experienced desire
We have
discrepancy
experienced the
in
desire
the beginning of
discrepancy.
our relationship. We are working through libido leveling now in this
Yeah.
season of our marriage as well. So we understand what that's like, and we understand how the conversations go. Man, Angie, you ain't saying nothing right now. We are down 100%.
Yeah. Let's work it out.
Let's make that happen.
Let's work it out. Where are you guys
Let's
again?
make that. It don't
Do you
matter where they at.
remember?
Let's make it happen. Let's make that happen for
I'm
real.
just curious.
That's real talk. Let's make
Yeah,
that happen.
that would be
That would be dope.
awesome. That would be awesome.
That would be super
Let's
dope.
work it
Yeah,
out, sis.
let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. So we're gonna get out of here. Listen, blessings on you, family. As we say always, conversation is a catalyst for growth. Conversation is a catalyst for learning.
Mhm.
You should be talking.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Angie, we are needed indeed.
Yeah.
And good
And
night to you. And say what's up to Sad for me as
good
well.
night. Yes. Say
Yeah,
hello to Cedric.
indeed.
Listen, it's needed. Conversation is needed. And I there's another thing I want to stress too is that conversation is always needed.
Yeah.
It's always an ongoing thing. There's always something about your spouse to learn. Like we've been married for 23 years
Mhm.
and the learning hasn't stopped
Has not stopped.
because the phases in your life continue, they change. You grow, you evolve. The things you desired in the beginning, you may not desire anymore, but those things have to be communicated.
Yeah.
And so the learning, the conversations should never stop.
Should never stop. So listen, join us. We're typically here every Saturday night for Have a Conversation After Dark. We usually throw some topic up in the air. Sometimes they're real crazy topics. If you haven't seen the others, please go back and watch the others, man. Some wild topics
I want
that
to
we've been
ask a
talking about.
question before we
Hmm.
hang up.
Hmm.
I want to ask, what do you think about the past week has been? You keep seeing it thrown up on social media where people are like, you can't take me here on a date.
Oh,
You can't take me there. You can't take me to Cheesecake Factory. You can't take me to Starbucks. I think it's like a first date or something like that. And I'm just
yeah.
curious, like, what are your thoughts on that?
We
I
should
know my thoughts.
we should do a whole
A
show on
whole
that.
show? Okay, then don't give
No,
your
but
opinion.
I'm gonna give my opinion. Angie said that's dumb. So
It's super dumb.
here's what I have to say. This conversation that is bubbling up now, and Angie, you going exactly where I'm going. She said it
Yeah,
shows their mindset. This conversation,
basically.
yes, we can do that together. Yes, we can do that topic together. Absolutely,
Word.
we can do that. I'll reach out. We can do that together. I'm gonna tell you right now. this conversation is the the mentality behind this conversation that's bubbling up is the reason why relationships are trash right now.
My God.
That's the reason why.
Yeah.
The
I
mentality around that is the reason why we are seeing the foolishness we're seeing right now
yeah,
in
I would agree
relationships.
with that.
It's
People's
ridiculous.
mindsets are
Absolutely ridiculous.
just out of this world. I
Yeah, yeah.
just
Absolutely ridiculous.
people's mindsets, man. They're
Yeah,
not they're not working with the whole picture.
yeah,
They're not.
yeah. Yep. Angie, I'm gonna reach out. I'm a DM you and we'll figure out how we can do that one together. But yeah, that's craziness. It's crazy.
Mm-mm-mm.
It's crazy. Um,
Well, you take me to Starbucks. Take me to Cheesecake Factory.
Kim said on Instagram said anything for a like.
Anything for a like.
Anything for a like. Yeah, it's nuts, man. That's
It
nuts.
is
That's nuts.
just crazy. Look,
It's
take
just
me
something
there.
else to grab a whole bunch of attention. You know what I mean?
Take me like I remember our first, would you call it a date?
Mm-hmm.
When you were asking me all those questions, would you call that a date? Our first official date?
I don't think that was our first official date.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Okay, never mind
No,
then.
I don't think so. Angie said the women that think they are the prize and they don't offer anything.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. Said or
It's wild.
our number. Yeah, actually I think I do have your number now that I think about it. Yeah, so yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that because that's that's nonsense. But listen, we appreciate you all. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you for being a part of this. If you have not now Instagram, we don't have I saw that. Instagram,
Kim.
we don't have replays on Instagram, but if you want to see other conversations that we've had, which they have been great,
Yeah.
go to our YouTube channel. The link is in our bio on Instagram. You can check us out on YouTube. And for those of you watching on the other platforms, you can see replays of those other weeks as well. We're going to get out of here. Have a fantastic rest of your Saturday night and a
Yes.
great weekend and a great week. And we will see you.
See you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. We'll be around. So blessings on you. Have a conversation.
Bye, everyone.